welcome everybody to another edition of Hot Program. I am your host with the most, all the way from the East Coast, and as always, folks, I am in airplane mode, and I am joined by a man who will take his kids to church and then the drag queen story hour just to see which one they thought was better. A man who needs no introduction. How are you doing today, my one black friend?
I am excellent. Good to see you, Pocket Locker. How are you?
Thank you. Good. I'm with you. I actually think more people need to do this exact experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Like
now, I have to say, if they have cookies and juice in Sunday school, but they don't have them drag queen story hour, it's anybody's guess.
The game is up in the air.
It's up in the air. I'll tell you all. When I was a little kid, like 6 years old, we went to the Baptist church that was across the street from the housing project we lived in, unless our doctor had time to come pick us up and take us to the Lutheran church that was in our old neighborhood where he still went. And going to the Baptist church, you'd get like a quarter of a donut and some like juice that was like cheap juice. But when we went to the Lutheran church, it was unlimited cookies and unlimited juice. So at an early age, I thought, wow, the Baptists are trying to get to heaven and the Lutherans are already there.
Exactly. So the question, do you think, the question of the day is Braxton Hunter a sincere interlocutor? I would say your answer is no, right? Because you think
he's
a grifter.
I think he's a grifter. That's my opinion. And I also think like he doesn't believe in God. There's no way. He's heard too many arguments against it, and I think he's had to reconcile those privately by not reconciling them and just saying maybe people like Dillahunty are spot on. And I got a lot of people listening to me that depend on me, and some of them are barely hanging on and need the message and power of the gospel that I am presenting to them so that they don't go off the rails. And that's worth it to stay in it to me. Plus, he probably, I don't know what he makes. You can do Social Blade to kind of get an idea of what he brings in. But I bet with donations and whatever YouTube income he gets or Twitch income, he's probably doing pretty well. I would assume a lot of those people like Bertuzzi, Braxton Hunter, Inspiring Philosophy are probably making more than $100,000 a year.
Really?
Easily. Yeah. And I don't know. I've given up like well-paying gigs before because it just wasn't what I needed. I don't know that everybody has the comfort and space to do that, or reason to do it. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean you don't like the money.
Right.
So, mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. So what do you think the proper response is to someone like this? Like if you were to, spend a day with somebody that's, say you met up at a conference, there's an atheist versus Christian conference, and everybody's invited to do these, those old school panel discussions, and he likes your talk. He says you want to grab lunch. Like, what do you do? Because for me, and I've had this thought about people like Kent Hovind, where I'm going to go for it. Like, I'm going to really try to sit there and say, like, I got to wrap my head around this. Wait, so like, what do you think that conversation would go like between you and him?
The worst thing I feel I could ever say to a Christian, the worst question I could ask them is not the stuff about why does God allow sexual abuse literally within the walls of a church, but it's what's heaven like? Because heaven's the goal, right?
Right.
Or not being burned alive forever in hell. For some Christians, that's the goal. but heaven is the preferred goal. And ultimately, I think Christians have a very difficult time describing heaven because they don't know. They haven't read their Bible. They don't know that much of it is on fire, especially when you get around God. That's said repeatedly in the Bible and Apocrypha. They don't know what they're going to do there other than praise God. They don't know they'll be able to see their loved ones or anything. Like, these things just aren't covered. And so to have the goal but not actually know what it means, I think is kind of, I've seen it be really confusing and kind of terrifying for people because they realize they don't know what it's really about. And that's where they're trying to make it. They just know that suffering is going to be over. So
Right.
I would bring that up. And then when he would, I would say, can you show me chapter and verse? Here's a Bible here. Show me. And let him do his best. And then let that work on him. He's got to think about it. But I don't know. Like I said, I you don't understand where I'm coming from. I don't think he's legit, a legit believer.
Really? That's very interesting.
No, and I could go on. Alan Parr, I don't think Alan Parr is a legit believer either. What's the guy with the wife and the tattoos? He's another black man who has a podcast like that, and he was in that, like, they had like a Christian group of podcasters that met, and he was in that group. I can't think of his name right now. That's on me, not on him. But him too, I think, like, so many of you guys you found out, like, this is a great way to make a buck. It's a great way to make a buck and look really good. I don't know that it's about looking good. I think it's more about the cash, but that's just my opinion. I don't know that it's true. We don't see me spending all my hot program money on nice hats. So, I'm not in it for the money over here, but I think a lot of those guys, they just see the potential and it makes their eyes big, If Joel Osteen really wanted to help people, like Jesus said, right?
Right.
He would be well known for paying people's bills, buying people cars, paying full ride scholarships to college,
Right.
and stuff like that, visiting on his Monday through Friday time off. Part of his ministry, he'd be the one visiting hospitals, checking on the sick. Jesus, whoever wrote the Jesus character, left lists. Those people left lists of stuff that we could, it would be obvious that someone was a Christian. They told us what we should be able to see,
right,
including they would be able to lay hands on the sick and they shall be healed.
Right.
So what we have here is a group of people who say they are Christians that don't meet the biblical standard of being what Jesus said a true Christian would be. Right?
Yeah.
So, there's no ire here. I don't need to beat up on them. I don't want to beat up on them. It would be nice if they could acknowledge that. Yeah, I don't have the power to heal people. No, I don't think I should drink deadly poison because I don't expect that I'll make it if I do without urgent medical care from modern professionals.
Right.
We have a powerful cumulative case.
Yeah. So, look, the book says A, B, C, and D are possible. Show me. Just show me. If Braxton Hunter has a great product that actually worked, he could demonstrate it.
Right. But they don't, and they never will. But that's a very interesting question. All right, gang, y'all are on in the chat. Let me know what y'all think about Braxton Hunter. Here we are on Braxton Hunter Hunters. That's a great name. And I think he's full of it. But let's go ahead and jump into this tape. What we've got today is him doing a couple things, responding to some atheists. So let's start with this one. Unbeliever, why faith? Because Jesus gave evidence. This should be interesting.
All my life, I was taught that faith was a good thing, to have the faith of a child, faith smaller than a grain of mustard. All that stuff was good and esteemed and stuff. But then I looked at this right here.
Yeah. Now, I got to stop this right here and say this is funny to me. Christians, here's the question. Christians, why is faith praised when Jesus gave doubting Thomas evidence outside of faith? Now, it's funny she said, I just found this right here. Then he said to Thomas, put your finger here and look at my hands. Put your hands into the wound in my side. Don't be faithless any longer, believe. Then he said to Thomas, put your finger here and see my hands, and put out your hand and place it in my side. Do not disbelieve, but believe. Okay, let me just say something about this. If you're just hearing about the Doubting Thomas story, man, are you new to the game. Man, you're a baby Christian. Because, like, how do y'all not, how does this not, I think about this story every time we talk to Christians, we talk about this shit, I'd be like, so to me, this is like a basic gospel 101 type of story. So it's funny to me that this Doubting Thomas thing comes up. Now, number two, I completely agree with this person. And there's a lot of examples like this in the Bible, right? He multiplies the loaves, he feeds the fishes, he walks on water, he changes water into wine, he's raised from the dead, he appears to 500, he walked through walls or whatever. And so
he could teleport. Yeah,
he could teleport. Yeah. So
guy, no doubt about it.
So to me, there's always been this way in which God is acting in the Bible constantly to make people, and it really bothers me. The conversation that comes up and really is when you say to Christians, well, you know, why not God just show himself and reveal himself? And they'll go, oh, well, he has to give you the free will. You have to have the option to not believe. That would be coercive. It isn't coercive to insist that somebody know you're real. It isn't coercive to me to be like, my one black friend, I'm here. I'm in Lansing, Michigan. I'm wearing a yellow headband. This is ridiculous. But that's always the argument that they give us. And then they start to go to, well, why did God stop miracle working the way he did then today? Like, to them, there's some rationalization for why God genuinely did these things in biblical times, but does not anymore. So I do want to see where she goes with this, but yeah, if you have any thoughts on it, it's just funny.
Sure. Thomas is supposed to be Jesus's brother in this story. And if you keep reading, the remarkable thing, and I didn't notice this, someone else pointed it out, was that it doesn't say that Thomas actually put his fingers into the side of Jesus.
Exactly.
Doesn't say that he did, so very interesting.
Right, so Thomas may have just taken it on. He may have taken that challenge and then just said, "Oh, well, yeah, like he called my bluff."
He might have gave him a nice Family Guy Cleveland style. That's nasty. I don't know. It might go septic. Jesus, I'm not gonna do it.
Uncle Bobby, good to see you. I have no idea if he's a Sigma. I doubt if they'll say, but maybe you'll get a good look at the hat again. What about the woman who grabbed Jesus's cloak and was healed by her belief alone? Yeah, that's it. That's another one who got proof based on their faith.
Doubting Thomas. He actually, well, I don't really believe this Bible to be the Bible to be true, but the story in the Bible, Jesus actually presents him with something else other than faith. He says, put your hand in my side. You know, if faith is such an esteemed thing, why isn't God doing that today? Why isn't he giving other forms of evidence instead of just saying, read this book that that has been passed down and all.
Y'all see this Trinity radio incoming response sliding back and forth? I just want to say how annoying that is.
altered and written and stuff like that without actually saying something.
Bro, as though we don't know you're going to
doing
respond to videos on your
As to
channel.
appreciate your time and not drone on when I've covered this recently in another video. We're not going to cover this idea that she threw in right at the end about, well, this book's been altered through time and all that sort of thing. That is a legitimate question to ask about, and obviously there's an answer to that in previous videos. But really what we want to focus on is this dichotomy she seems, the Bible seems to champion, and that you should just have faith, have faith, have faith. But then why is Jesus giving Thomas all this evidence? Looks like Jesus is fine with people getting evidence. Maybe what the problem is, as we've discussed quite a bit lately, is most notably in the video response to Apologia recently, is that it's a misunderstanding of faith as it's understood and used, not of evidence. And we do think that Jesus gives us evidence today. We do think miracles happen today. We do think healings happen today. But we also think there's plenty of publicly available evidence all over the place when we're talking about the existence of God, the theistic
argument. Pause the tape. That's for you, Uncle Bobby. Look, first of all, I'm going to try to ignore the graven images of the kangaroo in the background and the graven image of a kangaroo on his shirt, because he's not supposed to have those things. I'll try to ignore that. But look, my mother's in a care facility right now. She has been a Christian her whole life so far. We have an opportunity, right? The people in my aunt's prayer line, which is, I don't know how many people are on the prayer line, are praying for my mother. We have an opportunity to observe if this is legit, right? Somebody I know, somebody whose medical condition I'm familiar with. It should only take like 2 Christians to heal my mom. But her condition's getting worse. It's not getting better. It should only take 2, according to biblical teachings. What's happening? He says miracles are still happening. According to the natural order, without medical intervention from the professional she is surrounded by, she'll get worse faster. So if he wants to produce a miracle, which would defy the natural order, that's sufficient for me, right? If the doctors can say, "Nah, we heard from Jesus this morning," he'll be performing the next procedure. He'll be fixing her feet. He'll be fixing her leg. It's I can make it sound so simple, right? If I had a broken leg on my couch, I just drill out remove the old leg, slam a new one on there, and we're good. I could even stain it to match, right? The next person wouldn't even know that there was even a repair, probably. We don't have this.
Yeah.
Braxton Hunter cannot promise someone this. He can only say, "I don't know why God didn't," but again, it's the old thing where they say, for reasons sufficient to God, it was his will. Really?
Also, do you let's talk about stuff that's important. Do you think Braxton Hunter sits in that chair? It's just they kill me with their sets, man. Like, they just kill me with their sets.
Look,
I don't think he sits in that chair. I don't think he's read any of those books. Those don't even look like books for reading. So, are people just buying decorative books to fill bookshelves with?
I have neglected doing this broadcast from my bedroom, where you can see behind me loads of books over my shoulder, and I think I might have read like 1 in 8 of the books.
Nobody reads all these. They're set pieces now. That's what books have become. Books have become decorations. They've become useless than the what did we used to? I mean, at least they used to be like, they'd sit on your coffee table. You'd roll your weed on them. You'd have guests thumbing through them. Now we don't even do that. Just put it on the shelf in the background and
now there are backgrounds, like digital backgrounds for green screen users, that are bookshelves, and I think that's hilarious. And I don't know. As you can see here, there's my fireplace. Frequent viewers of Hot program will have at some point seen a fire burning in the fireplace. That peacock is a wall decor that I thought would look nice in front of my fireplace.
Yeah.
So it's there when there's no fire burning, oftentimes. But I don't know. I think you can go with what you got. The nice setting adds a certain air of legitimacy to whatever he's saying. I mean, it wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't matter to me if they were legit, but everything to me with them is the air of legitimacy, right? And so I think it's fun to poke at that a little bit because that's all they've got. That's all they've got is the putting
theater.
on. Now, I will tell you
It's
this. The question of the day usually, y'all know how it is. I got to come up with a fucking question for the show. But today it was as a sincere interlocutor. It's something I'm curious as to what people think about it. But the way he handled even this question just struck me as completely insincere. It just struck me as like this is old hat. Like he's like, I have to deal with this again. You guys should already know better, But it speaks to what you said about he's heard these arguments so many times, and he sits around and responds to them all the time. So he's either
Go ahead.
he's either like full of it or he's never taken those ideas seriously. And I just want to say this quickly. I've recently made this point, and a lot of us have to stop doing this. Stop rewarding or stop giving your Christian friends a pat on the back for being friends with you and having conversations with you when you guys don't talk about the differences in your faith. And if you do, you don't talk about them honestly. Like, just stop. I don't care. I just want to tell you I'm very unimpressed. Because what happens is they're not listening. They have nothing at stake. So it's not impressive to me. Like, if my one black friend calls an employee into their office, and that employee knows they may have done something wrong, he may correct them, they're gonna have to take that correction seriously. That's gonna mean they have to acknowledge that they didn't do it right. Then they're gonna have to change, right? If they handle that well, you're freaking impressed. Man, I had to correct this employee today. They were professional. They came in, they saw the issue. They did what needed to be done. If you have an employee who literally never comes, they're just a wonderful employee, and every time that they come in your office, you give them. Is anybody impressed when they walk in and out of your office with a smile on their face? No, because there was nothing at stake for them. Taking praise is easy, especially when you don't deserve it. So what I see a lot happening, and this is how it ties up to Braxton Hunter, is the only way he's able to do these videos with a straight face is because he's not listening, right? When he hears arguments from atheists, he's not listening.
Ouch.
He's not taking them seriously.
Mm-hmm.
He's rolling right through it. Oh, yeah, I heard what you said about God doesn't provide. Yeah, I heard what you said about this argument. Yeah, I heard what you said about the church's anti-Semitic. Yeah, I heard what you said about bigotry. But, right, it just went in one ear and out the other. Mm-hmm. And they've figured that out. So they're playing you. They have figured out, I'm going to sit here and look at you like I'm listening, nod along, and smile and nod along. Oh, I hear what you said. It's very interesting. I'll give that some thought. They're not going to give it some thought. So it just bothers me. Like, I've seen, we've all done this. We're all learning how to atheist together, right? But one of the things we've really got to stop is just recognize it's not impressive when somebody who thinks very differently than we do has a conversation with us or hangs out and plays games or something like that, when there's absolutely nothing on the line, nothing at stake, they have no skin in the game, they're not being challenged, and when they are challenged, they don't respond to the challenge. That's easy. That's literally like saying you're going to get an A just for showing up to class. You don't have to actually read the book. You don't have to actually take the quizzes. You don't have to actually take the exams. But if you show up, smile, and you're friendly, we'll literally give you an A for participation. That's what I feel like is happening in these conversations. We are giving people participation points for showing up, and they figured it out. They figured it out. They figured out all they have to do is show up and be nice, and you will just give them kudos all day long for showing up and being nice. All right, let's jump back into the tape unless you want to address that, but I want to make sure you can.
Well, sure. Well, ministers are very lucky. People who preach the Gospels are very lucky. They have the breadth of the Bible, which people often have been hearing bits and pieces of for years. And there are these touchstone phrases that they can lean on to sort of center their audience, their congregation, what have you. And so, like, I am the way, the truth, and the life, Jesus said that, and Jesus said, if, all these different things from the Bible that Jesus said, or that Paul said, or that God says, or that David said, or, all these things Moses said that they can pull from because, well, the book says it worked for those guys, so it can work for you. And that's the easiest thing for these folks to do, is just pull that card and reassure their audience it's all going to be okay the biblical way.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's got that.
Absolutely. All right.
Well, she might have said, but the Bible says this, and the Bible's the word of God, so the Bible's right.
Every time.
That's the point of view.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's top trumps for our British listeners. Top trumps.
Yeah. That's ironically.
Arguments, the world around you that you can open your eyes and look at. But you've got the evidence for God's existence that is accessible to you, I think, whether it's convincing to you or not. You have the case for the resurrection. You have the fact that if like, for those of you that like maybe are agnostic but about religion, but you do actually believe there is a theistic God or something, if you can simply grant that, okay, based on the moral argument or our moral impressions, it's at least likely or plausible that a good God exists. And since we have this desire to have relationships with one another, it makes sense that whatever God exists who intended man to result that way would also be interested in morality and relationship. So
pause it, please.
So what I could do, I'm saying,
pause it, please. I had to write something for someone in the comment section on YouTube. There was a video that I felt the MSNBC host was wrong, and her guest was right. They were talking about banning books in Florida, and she was trying to make the case that there shouldn't be all these bans for like the book The Bluest Eye or something like that. And he was trying to make the case that, look, as a parent, you can determine what books are in your home, but there are books that don't belong in school. I agree with that man. I would submit, as I did in my comment, the Bible is one of those books where there's rape, misogyny, slavery, rules for slavery, that sort of thing.
So would you say this? Killing. You would say this based on level, though, right? Like I went to I was able to get my hands on Mein Kampf at Penn State, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't have anything against the university keeping historic or controversial books that are problematic, and I actually think these are appropriate things to be in books, right? Like the same way TV shows feature murder and rape and war and all of this stuff. You're saying at the appropriate age level, you think that's okay to keep kids away from certain books?
I guess I'll have to agree to what you just said, because I don't think you should put Mein Kampf in the hands of a 6-year-old. Not only will they not understand what they're reading in terms of like cultural context, but they won't understand the ramifications of adopting some of the opinions in Mein Kampf. They won't understand how that's going to affect the world.
Right.
So that's the wrong age. Now, what about middle school? I'd still say that's the wrong age. High school, I still say that's the wrong age. University, Sure, because by the time you've been there 6 weeks, your view of the world has already been shaken up.
Sure.
And you know, like, I need to question what I'm hearing. I need to learn to question what I'm hearing. And that not every point of view is going to be a correct point of view. And that you have to think for yourself now.
All right, but you know what? Let me I don't want to get you. Ooh, sorry, my headphone popped out.
It's okay.
Sorry, I don't want to get you off your story. You were telling a story that was kind of a distraction. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think the audience is picking up what I'm laying down here. There's enough salacious, and violent material and unsavory material in the Bible that it really makes it unsuitable for younger kids. Think about it. Even the Noah's Ark story. And God caused the rains to come down, and he opened the wells of the deep, and water came up. Wait, you're describing essentially an extinction level event. And you want those kids to be happy that Noah and his family built this wonderful boat and had all these great animals on it. Because there's even, like, you know, the giraffe is sticking his head out the window and all that stuff. They make it cute. And when I was teaching this sort of thing, I had like a felt board to put all this, you know, cut the characters out, color them in, gave pages for the kids to color, and I'm teaching them this story. This, when you think about it, is probably the most horrific story they're ever going to hear in their life. But we're dressing it up and making it sweet. But it's not sweet. It's awful. And I didn't think about it when I was a Sunday school teacher to say to the kids, if any of you people ever do anything remotely like this, you will be thrown in jail if doing it doesn't kill you. You'll be thrown in jail the rest of your life. This is absolutely awful. But that's what we're teaching them. I don't know that we should be so surprised in this culture.
So your point is just, if we're going to be banning books, the Bible would be first on the list.
First one out. First one out.
Yeah. Well, I would also argue one of the other reasons is because it's a public school. And they probably would say, well, why do we need a Quran in a public school? Why do we need a Torah in a public school? In other words, why does this school need to participate in religious education? Now, I would say put them all in there and have yourself a comparative religion class. But again, we're talking probably different levels, totally different context, right? Well, we're just saying if we're going to be banning books based on it's got violent subject matter in it, it's got things that we don't want children exposed to in it, then yeah, you'd get rid of the Bible. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. But I'm more radical about it. Obviously, go ahead.
Oh well, look, I don't say get rid of the Bible.
But you don't say get rid of the other books either.
No, and I don't. Don't get rid of the Quran. Don't get rid of the Bhagavad Gita. Don't get rid of the Torah. No. All that stuff is fine to exist. And I'll encourage, people, read your holy books, but read other people's holy books too.
Right.
Don't just confine your intellect to what yours has to say.
Yeah.
As I've mentioned before, like I would study other religions with the people who actually practice them.
Right.
And rather than getting, read some book that somebody wrote about it, I'm sitting next to those people. I'm in the room with them. When they say, will you chant with us? I'm like, well, if you teach me what to say, sure.
That's an interesting conversation.
Then I'm doing a tailed mantra one day,
Yeah, because so. I think I don't know that I'm okay with children being exposed to religion anymore. There's a way in which, like, I definitely support comparative religious studies. Mm-hmm. And I'm certainly okay with talking about religions because I think they're part of our history, they're part of our world, they're part of our culture. So it's a subject certainly in that regard. But the older I get, the more I think it's like these other things we've been talking about, where ideally, well, here's what's tough about it. It's still affecting the world around us. So what's the appropriate age to learn about racism? You know, in a vacuum, we say later because we don't want kids, you know, we don't need kids exposed to violent hosing and slavery. You know, we're not trying to traumatize the children right now. But there's a way in which that's insufficient for teaching them the history. So I don't know. I guess what I was really trying to get at is I do think children are vulnerable. And because they're vulnerable, ideally you'd want to wait till they're able to genuinely reflect on religions and compare them, because it's almost like if you throw them all at them at a young age, they're still trying to pick one. But yeah, I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, I have one of my neighbors who lives over there. His son is, I think he's 8 now. I don't think his son knows what a black person is.
Mm.
They're Anglo-Saxon.
Right.
I don't think his son knows what a black person is. His son knows me though.
Right.
My neighbor's daughter is here. I don't think they know what a black person is either. They know me though.
Right.
And so at some point, if I were to sit down and present situations, you know, like things we heard about in the 1950s, like the Rosa Parks story.
Right.
If I were to ask them, if I were to just say Rosa Parks is not black, but let's say Rosa Parks, her skin is green, or she has rainbow hair or something like that. And that's the reason that she's being told you have to sit at the back of the bus or give up your seat for someone who doesn't have rainbow hair. All 3 of those kids are going to know what the problem is. She shouldn't be treated differently because of her. Oh, wow. She shouldn't be treated differently because of her rainbow hair.
Right, right. Thanks for the sub, Mike.
They're all going to know. So I don't think my neighbor here has given a single lesson about this to his son. I'm pretty sure they never had to tell their kids about it. It's just kids know when they see unfair treatment.
Right. Well, that's kind of,
and they know they don't like it. No, it's just saying they know they don't like it. Back to front, the Bible is full of unfair treatment.
Right. Yeah.
It's full of unfair treatment. Back to front. So when Christians say like, "Oh, we ought to have this is a Christian nation. We ought to do things the Christian way," I'm get all Bishop Bullwick on them. Hell no. But no. Your way isn't better. Look at all the problems we find in the book.
Right.
And you say this is a Christian nation. We can walk around pointing out those problems.
Right. I also sort of wish it was like alcohol, to where it was really considered adult content and you didn't know what, you know, and church, it was like, we'll tell you about church when you get older, right? And mommy and daddy have to go off to church if that's what they want to do. And the kids, you know, you have a babysitter or they're in school or they're, you know, they're somewhere else. But see, that's the problem is people won't not indoctrinate their children in their religions the same way they abstain from sharing alcohol with their children. Well, and if we did say that they need, not all, but by and large, right? And then if there is a place for kids to go on Sunday while the parents are at church, it's Sunday school. That's the right. That's the problem. There's already a place listed, but it's in the church. So that's kind of the issue. Is I mean, this is serious. Like a lot of us in this community, again, we're learning. You know, we all see things differently, but we're growing. There's a lot of things that I think just becoming an atheist is just the beginning. And for a lot of us, we really are against indoctrination. And some people, it sounds silly. Like they're like, are you really gonna try to get people to stop sharing their religions with their children? We're like, yeah, we really think they should. Yeah, actually, you know, don't ask a question you don't want the answer to. But I'm not saying that that's gonna happen. But yeah, that's actually I wish. And I think it could just take cultural change, right? I think it should, you know, you just get a little bit more metropolitan, a little bit sophisticated, and somebody creates a solution. They create a place for kids to go. You know, there just becomes cultural change. But yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
Well, my fiance and I have talked about how we're going to raise our kids, and I would have no problem, like my intro said that you read for us, taking our kids to drag queen story hour after I took them to a church. But I would be happy to show them, hey, we went to a Christian church. We're going to now go to a Buddhist Sangha. And then maybe we're going to go see Thich Nhat Hanh's monastery and sit and talk with the monks there. And then we'll go, we'll just bounce around to the different faith practices. So they'll see, wow, a lot of people seem to have this need, and they connect to whatever, the source or God, in different ways. And then they'll look at the drag queens and say they're clearly having a better time.
Yeah, right.
It's loud and people are laughing, and people stay after and discuss. And
have you heard there's a jazz band at the Cheesecake Factory?
Yeah, I could take them to that too.
There's still music and fellowship and breaking of the bread and actual cheesecake.
Exactly. Okay, kids, we've been doing this for 3 years. What do you think? Cheesecake Factory. Cheesecake Factory is the way to enlightenment. I got it.
All right, let's roll some tape.
I'm just saying this is a soft case you could make just in your own thinking. I'm not saying that it's like a slam dunk or anything or clinching, but I think it's helpful. Is then you think, okay, if you have a God who's interested in morality and has given us some of those moral senses, and then or at least wanted us to result with those, and then you also think that we have like this desire and longing for relationship, and maybe God wanted that, okay, then what you could do is look at the major world religions, because God will want to get that message out, right? So you look at the major world religions, and is there anyone who says anything like that? Oh my goodness, right in the middle of the 3 great monotheistic religions is someone who showed up and claimed to be doing exactly that, to present morality, love, and relationship with people, with the whole world, and said that this would go throughout the whole world. And oh, guess what? It went throughout the whole world. You could look at stuff like that. But you have evidence for God's existence, for the resurrection. It's all, you can access this evidence today. But there's a dichotomy here, a juxtaposition between faith as this atheist.
All right, this is another thing I just want to quickly mention that Rebecca does, and Christians are not slick, but they're slick enough for each other because they don't pay attention. He keeps mentioning, oh, there's this evidence. It's easily available. Everybody, at least briefly say what it is. But he knows anything he would say as evidence for the resurrection would not be counted as evidence for the resurrection. I'll give you an example. Like, every single time we bring up evolution, we don't always go over the evidence for it. Mm-hmm. We don't always break down genetics and all of this type of shit. But when we really do have a conversation about it or a debate about it, and we specifically mention the evidence, we'll at least say something like, well, you've got so much evidence for evolution. You've got things like the fossils, genes, and, experimental, evidence that happens in the lab. I didn't just give you a 10-week graduate seminar in evolutionary theory, right? But I mentioned enough that you could follow up just on those few words and go, well, let's see, is there really experimental evidence of evolution? What's up with these fossils? Genetics, do genetics point to evolution? Right? I've given you enough of a morsel to follow up on. He won't even do that. And it's because he knows none of those are good morsels. Right? And so he's basically just pushing. We'll save that for another day. Save that for another day. And the way he does it, well, there's evidence. You can go find it. It's easy to find. There's the evidence. Evidence like what? Right? Like he won't even get, because what are you going to give us? He's going to give us minimal facts? He already knows that's been debunked. Right? This gets at the implication that he's really not sincere, right? Because if he was at least, he'd be like, oh, there's great evidence. Like there's great evidence for the empty tomb and the martyrdom of the apostles and the appearance to 500 and the doubting Thomas. He'd say, oh, we all know that, whatever. But he just, and here's how Rebecca did this. Rebecca did this. She did a faith healing stream and she was talking all about what's the problem with miracles. And she kept saying repeatedly, I've experienced miracles. Some small, some big, but I've experienced miracles. Then literally does this whole thing about how you might not experience the miracles and you got to hold on to the promises of God even if you don't experience the miracles, but never once mentioned a specific miracle, minor, major, uber, none of that. How grossly irresponsible could you be? How grossly irresponsible could you be to make a video specifically about why not everyone experiences their miracles, assert, but don't worry, they're happening because they've happened to me, and not provide one single example? That's grossly irresponsible. Grossly irresponsible.
Self-preservation.
But it takes foresight. You have to know, right? You have to. That's what I'm trying to. You have to think about it ahead of time. Realize people are not going to buy it, and then not mention the specifics because people, right? A person who's naive doesn't do that. If I naively believe I experienced miracles, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to be like, look, there was this one time I literally, I was stranded outside. My car wouldn't start. Like it was dead. I couldn't turn it over, but I was stuck in a snowstorm. I said a prayer. I turned the key and went clickety 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 clickety. And I said, Jesus, 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 Jesus. Boom, 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 and it started up. There was this time the doctors told me that I had this lingering cough. They threw everything they could at it, but they told me it was going to take a month to heal, but I was in so much pain. I said, Jesus, please let me get over this sooner. And would you know that cough was gone in 3 days? In other words, a person who naively thinks that they've actually experienced miracles that at least sincerely convince them would assume that they're at least sincerely going to convince you. So they would have to mention them, especially when you make fucking videos about miracles. So the reason she's not mentioning them is because she knows nobody will buy them, which means she knows they're bullshit. The same way he doesn't mention specific evidences because he knows it would start a whole rabbit trail, because anything he can mention, that's the obvious available evidence of the resurrection, would start a whole rabbit trail because it is not obviously evidence of the resurrection.
Well, here's a great one. Here's a great test we all can perform with the use of our phones and YouTube. So if Braxton Hunter is indeed a Christian, he indeed believes in the resurrection of Jesus, you can immediately ask him, well, what about the people that Jesus brought back from the dead? Do you believe that happened too, like Lazarus and the young woman? Like, can that really happen too? Or did that really happen? He says, yes. Now, type in like a search in YouTube, African resurrection. And then show him one of the resurrection videos from just a few years ago, or maybe even this year already, that people are claiming in Africa that they resurrect some dude who's in his coffin at his funeral from the dead, and say, is this real? Show him. Is this real? This video? Is it real? And see if they believe it. Can you find this guy and put him on your show? What do you think Braxton would say if you asked him that? Can you find this guy and get him on your show?
He'd make up a reason why he can't. Right.
Huh?
He'd make up a reason he can't.
Look, if you really want to show me, you can show me the records, right? The medical records.
Yes.
That
should be obvious.
Here's this death certificate for this guy. He was gone.
Right.
And then he was resurrected at his funeral service.
Right, or one
It's
video
really
from a
remarkable.
doctor that says, "Oh man, they really did recover, and we didn't treat it." Instead, every time we ask the doctor goes, "Yeah, no, this is a routine recovery. Yeah, this happens all the time. Yeah, we treated
All the
it
time.
every time."
Remission happens for certain people all the time. It's not. It's as a person who spent a lot of time in the hospital, it's pretty remarkable what they can do. It's
Right.
pretty remarkable what they can bring you back from. When I had my last heart surgery and the one before it, they were like, "This is routine. We send you home. If we don't do your procedures late enough in the day, we send you home the same day. You were just fiddling with my heart. We know. Now go home. Enjoy yourself. Fix something good. Watch TV. Breaking Bad is pretty good. Check it out." But yeah, I think as he's saying these things, I also think there's a bit of, again, washing clean the deeds of the God of the Bible, citing the good stuff.
It died since
Here we go.
Friday. He was in a mortuary. This is a brother. And this is the landlord. And who are you? Family members.
It's the mother of the wife.
Come here. This is the wife.
Yes, this is the wife.
Come here. This is the wife. Okay. Romosete. Jesus. Celebrate Jesus.
We glorify
Celebrate Jesus.
Jesus.
Hello, Elliot.
Jesus.
Lift your hands. Lift your hands.
My good God.
How do I know when they're speaking in tongues? I don't speak any African language. I was just thinking about that. Like, what does it sound like when they speak in tongues? I don't know.
And also, speaking in tongues is always done in English phonemes, ironically, with English-speaking people.
Man of is commanding life.
Rise up!
If anybody bought that.
What is this?
I mean, don't get me wrong, the guy should be an actor. The guy can lay still like a mug. Like, he can really lay still. Why does he still have the death face on?
Well, cut the guy a break. I mean, he did just come back from the dead. He's got to shake off that rigor mortis. He probably has to pee really bad.
The coffin is
things,
Jesus! The coffin is empty!
My good God!
You alone are God. You are God
Jesus!
alone. You are God alone.
Look at the thousands.
Christianity is destroying Africa. This is what the no, seriously, this is what the Afro-atheists have been talking about, man. Like, that's actually really disturbing. It's really bad.
How many more of these could you find? How many? I wonder if there are hundreds of them, right?
Okay, but let's
Now,
be
if we
honest. Hang on, my friend. We actually got something real quick.
Go ahead.
Trinity Radio is racist. I'm sorry. He just is. I'm sorry. His flavor of Christianity is inherently racist. I know he hasn't. I know. He's literally never said or done. I've never seen him interact with a black person, talk about a black person. He's racist because there's no. I'm asserting with no evidence that he's racist. But what I'm really trying to say is, part of his cultural bias is, I guarantee you none of them will ever say that a resurrection performed by a black minister in Africa is legit. They just never will. They just never will. It's immediately disqualified. I'm sorry. I don't know if anybody wanted to pick up on the subject, but there's a 0% chance that anybody that believes like Trinity Radio ever says an African minister has actually raised somebody from the dead in a way white ministers don't. No, he will call that out as a con 24/7.
Resurrections in Africa. And Mike Licona will say that. Oh, they've had resurrections in Africa. Like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, they do, but they're taking credit for them, right?
It's the power of Jesus, power of Christ and God, making all that happen. But again, they never. Where's the interview with these people that came back from the dead? That guy's story is so easy to fake, using that guy and tricking his family. Right? You don't let the wife see the body. You don't let the kids see the body. You just tell them it happened. Right. He's going to be buried. We're going to have his funeral at this time, and so they're not in on it. Just like Jesus and Thomas.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't want Thomas in on it.
Well, I'm going to tell you guys exactly what this is like.
Tell people it's true.
This is like in pro wrestling, where my one black friend, what we do is you're a wrestler, right? And I'm the booker for the WWE. I call you, man. I say, this is your big day. You're gonna, you're gonna be part of the show. Here's what's gonna happen. The champion's gonna come down. The United States champion. He's gonna issue an open challenge. He's gonna talk a lot of crap about how nobody in the back room, none of the wrestlers are actually there to step up, and then he's gonna turn his eye to the audience. He's like, "Oh, you shut up, and so that any of you can take me on. You guys are all a bunch of punks. I bet none of you could get in this squared circle and handle me, right? Any of you want it, I'll take down any of you, right? And then you're gonna raise your hand, right? And then he's gonna call you out, and then you're gonna come in, right? And we work the whole thing out. But what we tell you on his call is, you absolutely can't tell anybody, including your wife and children, that this is what's going to happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to hook you up with some tickets for the fam. You're going to pretend that you just brought your kids. Hey, it's WrestleMania weekend. You're going to pretend you brought your kids and your family tickets to WrestleMania. They know that you're an amateur wrestler. This is going to be you're going to make it. But you're just going to have, as a fan, some wrestling gear on underneath your outfit. You know what I'm saying? But that's what you're saying, right? You don't tell. Why? Because when we shoot it, we want to capture their organic reaction.
Real reaction.
We want their real reaction. We want them to really think and really look like they had no idea you were going to be part of the show, and they had no idea. And then they're going to be crying, and it's going to be the emotion. Then you're going to win the title. Then we're going to pan as you go over to them and celebrate with the belt, and the fans. But it was all part of the plan. This is how we do this. This is the business. This is what we do every day. Working you is the point. The game is to be sold, not to be told, and I just violated that rule, by the way. But but seriously, that's what's going on. But it's crazy. But think about the commitment you gotta have to play this out on this guy's behalf, man.
He only needed 3 days.
Like I'm telling you, this is and gang, this is what we mean about racism in the movies, because that man has Oscar-worthy. Think about it. He think about his method acting. He convinced his family he was really dead just to play a bit part of laying still for like 3 minutes for a fake resurrection. See, that man, if that man was in Hollywood, man, I'm telling y'all, it's global inequality, man. He would be giving Will Smith, Denzel, Jamie Foxx, all of them a run for their money. All of them would be in trouble. That man got acting skills.
If I told Braxton Hunter, I'd give him $1,000 if he can get that guy and the minister on his program and interview them, and then I could be in the chat and ask questions. Plausible. Send him a little super chat here and there, and he asks my questions. Would you still believe that guy was resurrected? I don't think it's I know you're tongue in cheek saying they're racist over there.
Oh, yeah, I was being I don't know.
I don't know this guy. It's the what do you meme guy. That's the other guy I think is kind of wink, wink, nudging his way through every podcast about Christianity.
Right.
And I know Braxton Hunter has been sat with him in a group of Christian podcasters. So I just think that it's sort of unfair to talk about only the good and none of the bad.
Yep.
It's just when he's referring to the power of God. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. But I mean, what would Rebecca and these other folks be like if they said, well, sure, the Christian God is guilty of genocide, but it was on his terms. Excuse me. Yes, he drowned little babies, but they had wicked families. So God did that to save them from the tyranny of being raised by wicked parents.
Yeah, it's like some Joseph Goebbels stuff. We watched a documentary about him, and apparently he poisoned his children so that they wouldn't have to live in a world without Hitler.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up, right?
Eventually, Hitler would become an old man and die. They would have been living in a world without Hitler.
But I mean, this is the land we're in when we start talking about, moral rationalizations for infanticide. All right, let's try to get through some more of this because we got another clip.
Also, from a propaganda point of view, if you say you killed your children, nobody's going to go looking for those kids. So they'll be safe.
That's true.
Send them off with millions of dollars in Nazi gold, and they'll be fine.
But no, I think they found all these people because, they're all famous or whatever.
Agnostic.
I don't know.
And then the evidence that the Bible seems to give us and talk about that at least people then
dad off this family. Damn.
Well, maybe the explanation is not that there's something wrong with how you're thinking about God giving us evidence. I would suggest that this is a colloquial understanding of faith, but the truth is that faith is trust. So did Thomas have to exercise faith? Yes. Oh, but not after he was able to see the holes in the nails. No. He still was able to exercise faith. Well, what do you mean? It wasn't much faith? Well, sure. It's because we understand faith to be trust. You trust in God that he will do for you in the future what he said he would do based on what we have good evidence he's done in the past.
Well, that doesn't work out, does it?
That I can trust God and Jesus based on all the evidence I have. But I still have faith. I trust. I put faith in God that he'll do what he says based on all the good evidence I have back here currently, right? And looking at the world and all the ways that we take in knowledge, right? So that's how that works. There's no problem here. God's still happy to give evidence. It's just faith. It still requires faith, but it's trust, right? In Thomas's case, he had every reason to already trust, right?
All right, there's something else here that bothers. Actually, finish the stuff.
That's the important thing there.
All right, so there's a thing that bothers me about all this. So there are three definitions for faith as a noun, right? There is the verb faith, which is without question, right? When you take something on faith, you do so. It means you do so without questioning. My one black friend tells me he had bacon and eggs for dinner. You say, how do you know? My one black friend had bacon and eggs for dinner. I say, I take it on faith. It just means I don't have any reason to question what he told me. But in terms of nouns, there are three different versions of the definition. And they kind of have A, B's. So the first is allegiance or duty to a person, loyalty. And that's the example is lost faith in the company's president. So again, we're in the mundane land, right? I lost faith in the Cowboys. What does that mean? I don't think they're going to win, right? It's not what we're talking about here. B, definition of that is fidelity to one's promise or sincerity of intentions, right? So we say someone acted in good faith, right? Someone acting in good faith, it just means they're being sincere. Or if I say that my dad is faithful, it means if my dad tells me he's going to pick me up, he's going to pick me up. Again, that's not what we're talking about. Now let's get to belief number 2. This is belief and trust in and loyalty to God. Or belief in the traditional doctrines of a religion, also sometimes referred to as firm belief in something for which there is no proof and complete trust. What bothers me? We're going to come back to that. Let me first get out of the way the third definition, something that is believed, especially with strong conviction, especially a system of religious belief. So we might refer to the Protestant faith, the Catholic faith. Again, it's important to be careful about our words. We're not talking about that right now. We're talking about the second definition, a belief and trust in and loyalty to God, or belief in the traditional doctrines of a religion, firm belief in something for which there is no proof, or complete trust. What bothers me is they play games by slipping and sliding which version of faith we're using, right? When we critique somebody's faith, when this person says, why do you want us to take something on faith? Doubting Thomas was given evidence, right? Now, what she's talking about is, why are you asking us to believe something for which there is no proof? That's the definition. Let me, I can show y'all where this is coming from so y'all can follow along. Faith, Merriam-Webster here. All right. So the issue here is they're confused. They're conflating these definitions. What the person was talking about is, why are you asking us to believe in something for which there is no proof? Doubting Thomas was giving proof. What he talks about is, oh no, well, Doubting Thomas was still giving the opportunity to have faith because he was still told to trust, right? Jesus told him, believe, don't be in unbelief or whatever, right? But again, conflating, you're not answering the question. Yes, Jesus was saying, you felt the nails, now have trust. The person you're responding to is asking, why should we believe something for which there is no proof when we are not given proof? So he totally dodged the question by preaching to the choir and talking about this definition that revolves around trust. And it pisses me off because when we talk about faith, we're talking about religious faith. We're talking about belief in and trusting and loyalty to a God, which is accompanied by belief in traditional doctrines of a religion. And really, for us, refers to this firm belief in something for which there's no proof. And then they switch it on us and talk about, oh, well, faith means trust. No, not in this context. It doesn't. It doesn't. It does not mean trust. It means what you believe. And we're trying to get at, why do you believe things for which you have no evidence? And they go, well, I just choose to trust God. That's not the question. And it really is frustrating that they play these word games. And I like to keep it very simple. When you have faith in something, it means you believe it. It means you think that it is true. And so the question we are asking is, what are your reasons for thinking this is true? We know you trust God. The question is, why do you trust God? Mm-hmm. And so I just, that's it. All right, good. I'm glad y'all got that. That just drove me nuts, and really need to point that out. And pay attention to that when people, slip in and out of different definitions when you're having conversations with them. And yes, don't be ashamed to actually grab the dictionary so that you can bring clarity to the situation, because it's frustrating, because it's an example of, we're not having the same conversation, and we can't even have a real conversation if you won't sincerely answer my questions without slipping into some other definition of the words I'm using. It's very disingenuous when apologists do it. They definitely should know better, but you actually may have to bring that clarity when you talk to people in your own life who are sort of parroting these things without realizing what they're doing. All right, this one's called Atheist Turns the Tables on Christians and a Christian Reacts.
I love this argument so much. Can I prove that something supernatural doesn't exist? Something I can't detect with any of my 5 primary senses, or any other sense for that matter. Something that has been undetectable by science for centuries. You want me to disprove? Sure, but first I have a question for you. Can you disprove every other religion and deity in history in favor of your God? The Greeks, the Roman, the Norse, the Slavic, the Celtic pantheons, all of them. What about the flying spaghetti monster? Can you disprove him? See, I can make a dozen arguments on how Christianity just doesn't make sense in a realistic viewpoint. But I bet you can't make an argument without using the Bible that the Christian God exists. We live in a natural world, and making a supernatural claim is the one that requires proof. Atheism is more logical than theism.
So, like, first of all, this guy says that he's happy. He says, sure, like, that he's going to present these reasons that show that God doesn't exist, or at least our God doesn't exist. And he never does that in the video, but I mean, but then he asks the question back to us, I think, to make the point that you wouldn't accept this as a challenge, or you wouldn't be able to rise to the occasion of disproving all other religions. Well, here's first of all the thing that I want to say. I'd love to hear your reasons that disprove God. But then the other side of this is when you're talking about these other gods, first of all, we don't have
So
to
notice
disprove
he just called out the atheist in this video for doing exactly what he did in the last. Yeah.
Christian apologists say this all the time. In general, I don't have a problem with the notion that something supernatural is going on. The question is, what is the nature of that supernatural thing? So are these religions false? I believe that the message about the nature of reality and God and all those things are false in those other religions. Yes, I believe that. But I don't necessarily believe there's nothing supernatural going on, or that some of the things that they may have claimed have happened in the history of their religion didn't happen, or even in some cases claims they make about God turn out to be true. I've said that many times, but so we actually can make sense of that. So then there's this other question.
Can you pause it real quick? So the Bible says that God flooded the whole world and killed all but 8 people. Geologists find no proof of this. So is it true or is it a claim? The end of the Mark Gospel says that that Christians will be able to lay hands on the sick and heal them, but we see no evidence that this is true unless those Christians are doctors, maybe with lots of very sophisticated pharmaceuticals and medical equipment. So is it just a claim or is it actually true? The Bible says that Adam and Eve were the first 2 human beings to exist on the planet Earth. But when we look at genetic studies, we find no evidence that that's true, nor could it be true. So is it just a claim or is it actually true? So see, when you break down his case, when you challenge his case, and he has to answer those questions, well, he's not going to answer those questions. What a gift it would be if he would answer our questions here in this podcast, our challenges, and get the African dudes on his show. That'd be amazing. I'd pay to see that. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I think he understands that his case is paper thin, literally paper thin. But again, as you pointed out, there's no acknowledging that here. There's none.
Yeah, and it is actually quite problematic, and I totally agree with you.
Religions without using the Bible. Well, some of them, yes, because you can just use certain philosophical arguments or ideas or arguments about the nature of God that I think do cull away some of these other religions, many of these other religions. That's certainly true. Are there some that those philosophical arguments don't necessarily work for? Yeah, I think so. Now, here, what do we do in a case like that? Well, what we do in a case like that is we look at, say, something like Islam, and we say, okay, look, if we look at what the Bible says about Jesus and what Jesus said about himself, now you say, well, we can't use the Bible. I find that so strange. If you're going to look at if you're going to make a historical case or look at historical evidence related to Christianity, which is the way you're going to get information about Christianity in terms of non-spiritual ways, is you're going to look at information that has been passed down, historical information and things like that. Well, the primary sources for the growth of for the life of Jesus and the growth of the early church are going to be biblical books. So you don't just throw those out, and neither does Bart Ehrman or the Jesus Seminar or anybody else that's antagonistic toward Christianity. What they're going to do is they're going to look at it, and they're just not going to presume that it's like from God or anything. They're just going to look at what can we tell from this. And so you get information like that even people like the Jesus Seminar agree, in their book, like the 5 Gospels, will agree, okay, this at least is historical. So you can use those. I mean, it would be really strange. Like anyone who's ever worked on a dissertation that's anything like this, even if it's secular and has to do with historical documents and things like that, you're going to want to get to the primary sources, or as early close to them as you possibly can, because that's what you're going to want to. If you don't do that, you're just not doing it right. So you're asking us, frankly, to do bad research when you say don't use the Bible to make the points that you want to make, or to make historical points like this. So yeah, we can use the Bible, but then when we use the Bible, people that make, say, people that make a maximal facts case, like Lydia Gru or my friend Eric Manning, and people like that, when they make a maximal facts case, they're still going to give you the reasons why they think you can take these things to be historical and reasonable to accept. And when it comes to people making a minimal facts case, the most popular case for the resurrection that is made often, some form of a minimal facts case, you're only using often the material that the non-Christian scholars in the field are willing to grant that you should be able to use. Like, even though they may not claim that you can grant the supernatural things that are said to have happened, they're recorded in 1 Corinthians.
We're done. We're literally done. What do you, why will Christians not realize our best scholars who study our scripture for a living, all of them who don't have our commitments, don't believe it? And yes, you get to these historical, but the point is you cannot make a positive case sufficient to warrant belief. And the point of the video was to say that you should not be even asking these questions of, can you definitively prove it's not true? Because that's not how logic in evidence even works. And so he's just literally conceding that the best non-Christian scholars who study the Bible may concede to some minimal facts that allow them to endorse the historicity of Jesus marginally. I mean, really, they're just saying they think it's more likely than not. But you don't get them to the miracle claims. And even the most accurate Christian scholars, you don't get to the miracle claims. So when will they take no for an answer, even from their own people? Go ahead, my black friend, if you want, or you want to roll tape. We roll tape.
Can you just rewind it a little bit to reinforce your argument? To where he talks about Corinthians, just before that.
Reasons why they think you can take these things to be historical and reasonable to accept. And when it comes to people making a minimal facts case, the most
Should I go back further?
Case for the resurrection that is made often, some form of a minimal facts case, you're only using often the material that the non-Christian scholars in the field are willing to grant that you should be able to use. Like, even though they may not claim that you can grant the supernatural things that are said to have happened, they're recorded in 1 Corinthians 15, 3 through 7. You can say about 1 Corinthians 15, 3 through 7, which says that this is the gospel I preached when I was with you. Jesus was dead, buried, rose again according to the scriptures. Then he appeared to all these people, right? They'll at least agree that that is a historical creed. That's a historical item that goes very far back. So we should be able to use these things. And when we use that to build a case for the resurrection of Jesus, that is the central historical claim of the Christian faith. And then we believe that Jesus says, we think we can argue that Jesus said is reasonable.
So here he's telling us the Bible is evidence that the things in the Bible, some of the things in the Bible, genuinely occurred. It would be more powerful if, let's say, the 2020 election, it would be more powerful if we had evidence like that, who was going to be president starting 2020. But we don't have it remotely so good for, I think, literally any event in the Bible. We should be able to find those claims backed up in other cultures. but we don't. Josephus, when he is writing about John the Baptist, he says remarkably little about John the Baptist, and yet he talks about how he spent time with a John the Baptist type figure called Bonus. When he comes to John the Baptist, he barely mentions him, and he doesn't mention Jesus at that time. That is the perfect place to do it. It'd be an outside source. We don't have outside sources talking about Jesus in the first century in great numbers. We should. If this guy could have done what he said he was doing, we should. But just as I've accused the characters in the Bible, if Jesus was real, he was doing live action role play and his disciples along with him. And now in modern day times, I would say someone like my assessment of Braxton Hunter and people of his ilk is they are now doing live action role play, acknowledging within that role play that Jesus's live action role play was legit.
Yeah,
that really happened.
So, gang, the question of the day is: do you think Braxton Hunter is a sincere interlocutor? And I think we're both on team no. But,
no, and look, he's not interacting with these people. He's responding to them.
Yeah.
It's like we're not to be fair to Braxton Hunter, we're not interacting with Braxton Hunter. We're responding to Braxton Hunter.
I just want to ask a follow-up.
I don't think, and I've seen him talk to like Dillahunty in a debate or discussion or whatever.
Okay.
So
I'd love to see that actually.
I don't think I think he's doing his best in self-preservation. Right, because he essentially is the mouthpiece. Was probably a better word.
So you're like he's down the fort for his mission. Let me ask you in the chat a follow-up question. So answer the question of the day, and then here's a follow-up question. And I think it's important to start asking this question about more and more of these people. For question number 1, do you think they're sincere? Here's number 2, though. Do you think they go to church? And I really do think that's huge, because I think there's a phenomenon, and I got to be honest with you, I'm biased. I'm what I consider a real Christian, right? And to me, if you really, there's no Christianity to me in the Bible that doesn't make the church central. Right, like because all Paul's letters and the missions, and you're making disciples of nations. So to me, the church is the real center of Christianity, and to me, you play Christian if you just Christianing from home. I'm just revealing my bias, but here's where I think it matters. I call it congregational Christianity, and there's a reason, because that's the Christianity that we're dealing with, right? That's the type of Christianity, the people that are filling the pews in the mega churches, that we're concerned about having the influence in our world. And I sometimes think that the internet Christians, the Braxton Hunters, the Rebecca Davises, a lot of times, the reason they're not in a church or often between churches is because the way they spit it on the internet doesn't actually line up with congregations, right? And so I think that's part of what I hear here. Is like he goes to these things, the minimal facts, but the secular. Like if he said that in Bible study, right? Like Christians would be alarmed by how much he's giving away, right? And it might be a challenge to them. And so but what do you think? Do you think he goes to church? I don't think he does.
As an audience member,
get up in here. Get up in here, Sean. You good?
Hey. As an audience member, hey, Black, how are you?
I'm wonderful. You?
Hi, Jay. I'm doing well. Working on this damn truck again. But I wanted to hop in because about 5 minutes ago you were talking about Braxton, and it made me think. The racist thing was kind of funny, Jay, by the way. That had me chuckling. Because look, they all like if you put Jesus up as like some black nappy haired 4.5 foot
no way,
dude, not a chance. That Time article, they're like fucking
Christianity dies. If that ever came to light, Christianity dies.
That's right.
Day.
What's up,
well, they
Cliff?
put up
Good to
that
see
Time article, and then Jim Jeffries a long time ago is a comedian, and he talks about like this Palestinian midget that like and it's. But look, I jumped in to say this. I think Braxton Hunter, all of these guys have tried to defend the faith at one point. About a year, maybe 2 years ago, Winger, Braxton, all these guys were doing debates. They were interacting with atheists. They were interacting with doubt and all of this stuff. And it just stopped. They no longer do that because I think they were getting hammered, right? Like, I mean, it was not beneficial to their streams. Like Winger would just go on some debate channel and have his ass handed to him or look like he was about to cry because Dillahunty yelled at him or some stupid shit. And literally they've stopped doing that. And it's the confirmation bias channel. And the thing
very interesting.
When I came on, you guys were talking about it, makes me think of a few things, Jay. One, maybe they make better money on the internet. Two, they may not be able to have their own congregation, but they can on the internet. So there's a couple things.
That's a lot.
There's a couple things that make me think of immediately why they might not go to church because he wants to preach and money and all that stuff. But I'm gonna get back to this truck.
Yeah,
I
hear that. I appreciate you. Cliff actually said, I think he's sincere, but also a person who does not base what they believe on the real world. What would I call such a person? I'd call them an idiot.
Black, it's an '83 Ford F-150.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm on the last leg of getting her back up and running, which I'm happy about, but messing with floats in the carb and
okay. Well,
anyway.
If you run into problems where it won't keep running or it runs funny or it starts and stops, just check your voltages. Make sure that you have your wiring straight, because if like a wire to your distributor or engine control box doesn't get enough voltage, that thing isn't going to run right.
Thank you. I just went. Thank you, Black. I appreciate that.
No problem.
I'm gonna listen in for a bit, guys.
All right, Sean.
Okay,
appreciate you. So something I want to show you guys real quick here is so we're in our what we call the arena that we built for wrestling events. We'll probably be in here for if we actually host debates, we can do word wrestling entertainment events in here. But this is one of our favorite gather spaces. It's actually the first space that we built from the ground up. And we're here, like we just started with a blank map and we built the floor and the walls and everything. And, we also use it for wrestling events. And so it's WrestleMania weekend. We watched night 1 last night in Gather. We'll be watching night 2 in Gather. And so it's like having a pay-per-view watch party, which is just the type of thing I've always been excited about doing my whole life, getting together with friends to watch wrestling pay-per-views, and especially WrestleMania has always been a big thing to me. But yeah, AR actually made these rings for us. We also have rings like this in our Pinochle Lounge, but AR made this ring for us and our sweet fucking WWE logo.
Braxton Hunter.
Well, I have both screens here. You got to look at Myron Bot's screen.
All right.
Here, let me unshare that screen real quick.
There you go.
Yeah, and then I'm going to show you guys real quick just what else we have in this space. Oh, of course, now my thing froze. Okay, there we go. All right, so it's also got this cool little office. All right, this is cool. So it's like having a little back office. We'll probably work in here for some days and hang out and play games. And then it's like you go through the actual curtain. You come out the back. You go through the curtain like a real...
I'm trying to find this description of
there
Jesus,
it is.
and I think it's in Slavonic.
But see how you pop out by the curtain and then you come down.
Having an
boom.
underdeveloped beard or an undeveloped beard.
But yeah, all right, I'm back in here. So, but yeah, I just wanted to show you guys that. Thank you for your help with this room, AR. It's fucking awesome. It's one of our coolest gather spaces. And yeah, get in here. Click the link that's pinned in the chat in the description so that you can hang out and watch WrestleMania with us. All right, let's jump back into this tape. This has been a really fun episode.
To think Jesus said these things like,
oh, hang on.
that we're
I gotta remute Myron, but
exclusive about the Christian faith, that he was the only way. Well, if I believe that God exists, and I believe I have good reason to believe that the resurrection is true, and that vindicates the claims of Jesus, and Christianity is an exclusive religion, well, I can't take a move like maybe some Hindus would do and take Jesus and throw him into like one of the Bhakti cults as his own, as a God that we worship, but he's not the only one or something like that. I can't do that because
again, I don't know what the hell I'm
straight
talking
face
about.
anyway, because Christianity over here, I have good reason to believe that it's true and it's exclusive, right? But then on top of that, there are historical problems with the claims of other religions and philosophical problems and those kind of things too. So yeah, we look at all.
Oh, my one black friend, where are you at? You never told us. And gang, tell us in the chat. Do you think he goes to church?
I think he Braxton. My early thoughts on the matter are that he does, but it's to get viewers.
Really? Okay.
I think he would to campaign.
Okay,
maybe
that's very interesting. I also think there's a good chance I think he goes to church. One, because I do think he's probably like me, like he probably has a narrative of the gospel in which the church is central. I also think for people, he may go to church like my dad, almost for like a political thing, almost where he feels it's important to be affiliated, to you know, have a so that if he were asked by a person like me, he could say yes. In fact, I attend services at church. But it's a really interesting question because I really think he's a great example of, like you said, if he goes to church to watch viewers, to recruit viewers, and then they actually watch his stuff. Right, I think they'd be like, "Yeah, brother Braxton, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but right, like, man, you said a lot of problematic things." So, yeah, what do y'all think? It's a tough
All those
one.
things.
I don't know.
In our Weimar series, we have like most of the major world religions, if not all of them, are covered there in that old series from several years ago. And so we do look at those. But yeah, I mean, I think there are several problems here. One is the claim that, well, science hasn't proven this God. We got to get off this train of thinking science is the only way to
Liz says my money's on you, Pastor.
So I think there is scientific evidence, but we got to get off this idea that science is just the be-all, end-all, the only way to come to know things. I'm not saying this person affirms scientism.
Maybe we should get off the idea that the Bible is the only way to know things.
Whoa. Now, again, here's a really interesting thing about this is it's tough because this is a very politicized point. I actually bought into this narrative, and I used to say this myself, and I still think there's a way in which it's important, right? There are other ways to know things, and people have been knowing things since there have been people. And when we didn't have science, we still figured things out. But in a way, and this is tough for people like them, this is super politicized because science is nothing but an outgrowth of what I consider natural empiricism. And what do I mean by that? So let's pretend we're back in the back times, way before science was even conceived of. You know, my one black friend and I still might know things. For instance, we might be hunting in a band, and we say, you know, hey, we'll go over the mountain to the left to see if there's any prey over there. And AR and Carrie Ann, you'll go to the mountain over the right, see if there's anything we can hunt there. Now, when we meet back in an hour, and my one black friend and I both report, we checked out our normal spot, there's nothing over there. And Carrie Ann and AR said, oh yeah, we checked out our normal spot to the right, and oh man, there's a big herd of stuff over there. effectively, we knew no pray to the left, pray to the right. And how did this work? It actually allowed us to do what, y'all? Make a prediction. We predict if we go back over to the right, help y'all out, we're going to get some food tonight. And then what we could do, a trial experiment. Let's in fact go over there, bring the bows and arrows, see if we can't get us a meal. We would try it out and we'd be like, victory is mine. Victory is mine, because we would get some food. Now, we didn't call it that, but that was a scientific experiment, right? And we don't realize that science itself, the scientific method, is just a formalization of that process, right? It allows you to, you take what we've already observed, you generate a hypothesis, you test that hypothesis, you use the results to generate more and better informed hypothesis. And it's important that people understand this, because it leads to us having to say, yes, there are other ways to know things, but there isn't really ways to truly know things for most of us in the absence of something that resembles empiricism. Furthermore, science is a privileged way of knowing, which should not be equated with other ways of knowing like faith or whatever. And the reason it's privileged is because of the process, right? It's because of the scientific method. It's because of peer review. It's because of the value of replication. It's because you're supposed to, correct when you're wrong and all of this stuff. In other words, the only thing to fix bad science is good science, right? So those are the material aspects of the process. And when we really teach philosophy of science, when we teach students, why is science so important? Why does science work so well? Why does science transform the world around you? That's the real argument, right? So it becomes problematic when people want you to, hey, well, you got to concede there's other ways of knowing, right? And it's like, yes-ish, right? And certainly we shouldn't be equating other ways of knowing with scientific ways of knowing. And we damn sure shouldn't be letting religious apologists get up out here and sort of undermine how we know what we know through science. So that is pretty crazy. And Cliff said, hey, Brax, if not science, what? Your best guesses? Also, we're wishing Cliff. Let me roll up.
I got something I want to. I found what I was looking for, but I didn't find what the original source for this is. I do think it's Slavonic Josephus, but I don't know for sure. So this is a quote allegedly about Jesus. The real Jesus, not the one you see in paintings. At that time, also there appeared a certain man of magic power, if it be meet to call him a man, whose name is Jesus. That's in brackets, so they added that. Whom certain Greeks call a son of God, but his disciples call the true prophet. He was a man of simple appearance, mature age, black skin, short growth, 3 cubits tall, hunchbacked, prognathos, which is long face, I guess, a long nose, eyebrows meeting above the nose with scanty curly hair, but having a line in the middle of the head after the fashion of the Nazarene, with an undeveloped beard. There's your Jesus, potentially. Short, skint, curly hair.
Yep.
Hunchbacked, 3 cubits tall, and mature, black-skinned guy.
Matter of fact, I gotta be honest with you. I trust racism to do so much heavy lifting. What we really need is a movement of biblical authors who really do convince us that we have that in an effort to inclusion, we have to update the models of Jesus so that he's a person of color. That will help us get rid of Christianity very fast.
Oh, Locker. I didn't finish uploading all of my images from the Museum of Russian Icons. There must have been 40 or 50 of them in there with Black Jesus.
Could you imagine?
This is from Russia. This is from Russia.
But I think that's dark skin. That's a
Chicago.
dark skin European thing.
Could you imagine if a black hunchback showed up as Jesus, like a fucking 4-foot black hunchback?
This makes sense.
They would lose their fucking mind. Like literally, white America would lose their fucking mind and probably just stick him back up on that cross.
Yeah,
quite
he'd
honestly,
be in jail.
This Jesus would have my undivided attention.
They would call the cops.
Dude, black 100%. That dude shows up and we're like, wait, all the atheists in the world are like, oh shit, wait a minute. But every white American is like, kill that motherfucker.
I'm thinking Alina right now. They'd call the cops.
I think exactly, yeah. Who is this? We have an intruder.
Yes.
Can you describe him? He's about 3 cubits tall. Did you say cubit? Yes, he's about 3 cubits tall, black skin, long face, scanty hair, undeveloped beard.
Yeah, claiming to be God. Get him out of here.
Yeah, exactly. He says he's the claim of God. Where is he? He's on our swimming pool. Do you mean in your swimming pool? No.
Oh man,
honey, come quick, there's a hunchback on the swimming pool.
Cliff said, and if you went back tomorrow and you did not find food, should you update your model or just insist things can't change? Accepting change is science, denying change is religion. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that comment real quick. All right, let's roll some tape on this fool. You guys are the best.
That is a comment that sounds friendly to scientism, and the truth is we can come to know things other ways. The second thing is you're not allowed to use the Bible when that strikes against good research. It's just we have to responsibly use it when we're trying to develop historical claims. And then lastly, he says this, how do you rule out this flying spaghetti monster and things like that? The notion here is we could apply some of the attributes that Christians apply to God and then show that, for all you know, the flying spaghetti monster or something exists. Now, the flying spaghetti monster has all kinds of its own problems because, at least as we understand these terms, spaghetti is a physical thing. And oftentimes what the atheists will do is they'll say something like, well, it's a metaphysical, supernatural spaghetti. They're trying to make
it's a timeless, spaceless, immaterial being. What the heck? It's a timeless, spaceless, immaterial being.
Although spaghetti is a spherical thing, physical thing, as above, so below. The Bible even says it.
Right. And again, he's literally giving away the game. It's where they get to just argue, sorry, God isn't real. He's just real. Right?
It's nuh-uh Jesus.
Exactly.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think I can put that in my Christian shirt line that I'm developing.
It's the same. It's the same.
It was Jesus.
It's literally the same. Like he literally, the spaghetti, but our God isn't physical. What are you saying? Like they're giving it away.
If my fiance is watching, remind me I said that nuh-uh Jesus thing. And we'll do shirts for atheists. Nuh-uh, it was Jesus. Nuh-uh, it was Jesus.
Nothing to this.
With what Matt Dillahunty often said. How do you know it's not universe-creating pixies that are responsible? They're spaceless, timeless, non-material, incredibly powerful, wise, universe-creating pixies and not God.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is that universe-creating pixies... Okay, so how many do you need? You're acting like there's more than one. Well, Occam's razor would cull away all the variables unnecessary for explanation.
Ooh.
And so you've got this one universe-creating pixie, but it's a spaceless, timeless, non-material, sufficiently powerful, exceedingly wise universe-creating pixie. That's just theism. You're just describing God and calling God a pixie.
No.
Theism,
so Braxton's not being fair because Dillahunty uses the plural, pixies. Look, we can find more than one ant, more than one person, more than one bicycle, more than one car. There's no need for there to be a single creator. It could be a team of creators, like the people that make the drugs I take.
Yeah.
The legal drugs I take. These are all prescription people.
Right.
The people who make that stuff. There's teams of people developing that stuff.
Right.
Or just taking it off of trees that grow in the Yucatan or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But people figure that stuff out. So I don't think Braxton's being fair. Again, it's defend his position at any cost, including his integrity.
Absolutely. And also, it's so rich coming from people who point to, oh, we developed the vaccine. Oh, well, God was so wonderful. He provided those doctors with the education that we might have, the chemical advances that we could. Oh, well, we can extract oil from, a mountain. Oh, well, God is so great in his creation that he provided fuel for us and then gave us, right? And then, oh, great, we figured out our nature and where we come from through evolution. Oh, well, God, set the wheels in motion. Oh, great, we figured out the Big Bang. Well, no, actually, that is just the evidence of God's. It sounds like you're just describing nature and calling it God. It sounds like you're just describing a universe in which a God does not exist and just saying God did it. Again, he is the interlocutor who has apparently figured out how to, again, buy this really expensive chair that he doesn't sit in, fill his background with really expensive books he doesn't read, put that really nice light. The light is dope. I love that light over his shoulder. Okay? My man's figured out a great camera, a great audio setup. I've never even seen this man refer to a producer or anybody. I mean, he's figured all this out on his own and he's broadcasting over it, but apparently he doesn't know how to work a mirror. He just hasn't figured that crazy technology of a mirror out.
I do wonder if he has a Blanc de Nil hat.
Oh God, no! Please don't. Don't put it away. Put it away. Don't give this man ideas. If he starts wearing hats,
no, he's got it in the background underneath the kangaroo.
Oh no!
Underneath the kangaroo.
No! I don't want to see them. I don't want to see him in the hat. No.
I'm just saying he's got one there.
I stay out of his chats, but I will flame this man to death if he starts wearing nice hats.
I got that when I was in the Caribbean.
No, I can't handle fashion forward. I can't.
I have too much hair to wear a hat.
I can't. No. And also, gang, there's a reason I actually picked on his set today. I was actually, a lot of y'all know I'm preparing a research proposal that actually has a lot to do with Gather, which is a really transformative space for co-working and community building, but also for education. And so part of the literature I've been reviewing is talking about, what's happened in, globalization, right, as a response to the pandemic. And one of the things that was talked about was that a lot of sort of structural inequities came out in the way, like Zoom, what do they call them? Like Zoom incidents happen, like Zoom fails or something like that. Like somebody gets caught walking naked through Zoom, or they get caught, they have a partner, or a puppy jumps in their lap, or a kid.
Kids come in the room.
Yeah, the kids come in the room, right? And so there's really a lot of bias in these things. So for instance, like nobody cares about puppies or animals. Like pets are commonly accepted, but like kids potentially are seen as like less professional, right? And then that burden, like what they're basically talking about is once everything went remote, people fell back on like traditional like gender roles in a lot of sense, right? So then it's like, more female professionals and academics just by default took on those responsibilities. And then they were more likely to have those type of interruptions. And then that has like a disproportionate effect on them. And then another thing they were talking about was how, it actually kind of made me think of myself, it's really kind of funny. They talked about how because everybody had to work from home, socialize from home and everything, that like people no longer separated like their social or personal presentation from their work presentation, because now your work from in home, right? Your camera's now in your house, right? And so basically when it comes to like displays, basically like men were perceived as like tolerated when they did things that like presented like uber masculinity. Like they were more likely to like, you know, comment on somebody's appearance and then like crack open a beer in a work setting, right? Where like kind of their need to display was like just like whatever, it's okay, they're dudes, they just do it, you know, they just they need to display online, whereas like it was seen as very negative if somebody displayed. So it's some deep literature I've been getting into, right? So anyway,
does breastfeeding work its way into this?
Probably, yeah, right. So it's really interesting literature. Actually, it's very fascinating stuff. But what this reminded me of is like his set is that uber masculine thing, right? It's supposed to smell like a cigar lounge or something, right? And it's got the hyper masculine big leather chairs and the browns, and it just reminded me. It's like, yes, this is a very.
If we pan up, we might be able to see the head of an elk.
Yeah, exactly, exactly, right. It's got that elk, and it's just on my mind. It was just on my mind.
16-point buck up there.
Yeah, and all right. So now you understand why we're breaking down the aesthetic.
Or you flying spaghetti monster theist or whatever else, because when you start pointing to, well, I can just point to the theistic arguments and I can supplant whatever I want to make up and it'll fit. And then I've got the same evidence that for this you have something. And it's like, no, that's not at all what's going on, because all you end up doing is funneling down through the theistic arguments to God and then putting a different label. It just ends up describing the theism I already affirm and just labeling it something else.
Go ahead.
I mean, I've already said it. I think he's just covering his own failing, which he knows. Like, look, his argument, Braxton Hunter's argument, isn't better than other people's arguments. It's the same argument that a lot of other people with a faith-based, belief have. It's the same argument. I've said, like, in a courtroom, Christianity will have a hard time because almost the entire religion, back to front, is prior art. It took place in somebody else's religion. You just change the names. It's plagiarism. It's copied. Well, maybe there's a sameness to it. Like, I could forgive when people talk about images of the
absolutely
Virgin Mary and Jesus mimic that of Isis and Horus. Like, it's a mom and her kid.
Yeah, now, right. It's too default. It's too default to go there.
If it was Horus and Mary, Horus and his mother Isis with a Matchbox cars, and they're playing with that, and then that's all you see in churches is Jesus and Mary playing with Matchbox cars. I'd say, okay, now wait a minute.
Right.
This is a little too close, right?
But just the depiction of mother with child,
that's natural.
Right.
There's a picture with my mother and me. Like, it's natural.
Right.
So I think there's not much of a case there. But when you get into the specifics of, okay, he rose from the dead after 3 days. Well, so did someone else, or so did other people. Creation of the universe. Well, other people did that. I always joke, like Antelope and Jaguar did that.
But that more argues that there's a common pool of tropes and characters that any of these things might come from, right? But your bigger point is that to the extent that he says other people are taking what's out there and repackaging his theism is certainly a repackaging of prior faiths and myths. All right, this last one we got is should be interesting. He says this atheist is right about religion. It's a short one, and let's see how it goes.
Hey people, I'm not atheist. I have a relationship with reality. It's strange seeing people redefine their belief systems to try and shift it away from the negative connotation the word religion may have, or to make them seem like their connection to a God is superior to others. I'm not religious. I don't believe in religion. I have a relationship with God. Or, religion is dead. I have a personal relationship with Jesus. How many of you feel like you're seeing that one spewed more and more? Let's be honest here. Would you? You are religious. You clearly belong to a religion because you follow its rules, precepts, and instructions. So be brave and admit it, and if you want changes, face it and transform. But don't pretend and be dishonest, trying to convince the world something you're not. And clearly...
Oh, y'all, my mom did this shit to me. She basically tried to give me I don't understand why, you know, you would think this is such a big deal. Like, I'm not that religious. I don't take it that serious. And I was just like, I'm not hearing this when people have told me God is the most important thing in their life and God is the beginning and end of their identity my whole life. Like, man,
God is them.
These are the most religious, some of the most religious people on the planet. I mean, literally, you can't talk to these people without their religion becoming front and center. I absolutely agree with this guy. I find it infuriating. I also find it to be a total cop-out from holding the church accountable or holding yourself accountable for your relationship to the church. It's a cop-out, basically, that allows you to then say, oh, all the negative things going on about the religion are those religious people out there who are not you. Right? And then you don't have to deal with that influence or you don't have to take responsibility for being a part of that group. And then most of them are flat out lying about it because, again, they are congregational Christians. They're in church on Sunday. They're paying tithes. They're paying their tithes. They are literally paying tithes like they are paying taxes. They are breaking off the church with their piece off the top. Then they're supporting offerings and missionary work and all this other stuff. A lot of them are even evangelical. They'll be out here proselytizing. And again, they will look you in the face and try to tell you they're not religious. It's gaslighting.
I'm looking at what Crawl wrote in the chat, and I just figured out how to look at what's in the chat today on this.
That's Carrie Ann. I just gotta say that's Carrie Ann and her wrestling persona, and that the outfit is just fantastic.
I can't tell what's going on with that outfit.
It's a little singlet. It's like a little singlet over top of a
like lettuce with a turtle body or something.
And then a hair.
Anyway.
It's great.
All right. So she writes, everyone, apologetics, what lies do you tell yourself to believe? Yep. I think we need to start asking them what a lie is because they seem to be confused.
Yeah.
So this made me wonder, like, because when someone shares their faith and you don't have time for it, like it's a bold thing for them to do. And is it impolite to say, how do I know you're not lying to yourself? When they're telling you how wonderful Jesus is and God is and all this stuff, how do you know you're not lying to yourself? So, Carrie Ann, you inspired this. What's your take? Is that too harsh a reply?
No. I
don't know.
It is. I mean, it's almost necessary at this point because the other thing is the sort of self-delusion is built into the cult. And so it's almost going to be impossible, I think, for people to start deconverting without really starting to do that metacognition work, that self-reflection. How do you know what you know? Why do you believe what you believe? So yeah, how would you know if you're deluding yourself is super important. Cliff said, I kind of agree with Braxton's last point. That's why I argue that we need to stop these conversations before we get to the point of comparison. The point is there's no reason to believe any of it. Yeah. In terms, I agree. But of course, Braxton would find that incredibly problematic. I would pay very real money. We would set up a pay-per-view in here to watch Cliff debate Braxton Hunter. That would be. We got to get there, gang. We got to take over the internet so we can make stuff like that happen.
You're ashamed.
Hey, wait! I just had a thought.
Go for it.
Maybe church could be renamed Pay-Per-Pew. Pay-per-view. Pay-per-view.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Pay-per-pew. Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Did you watch church? No, I saw it on Pay-Per-Pew. You were there? I was there. Third row.
Third row, yeah. Oh my goodness.
Center.
Man, look. If churches are being honest, they want 10% off the top from everybody. It's the flat rate. That's the only, and they want a little offering. And that offering should, if you're sitting in the front, hey now.
Yes, I agree with this man. I am a part of the Christian religion. I believe I also have a relationship with Jesus, but that doesn't mean this is not a religion. It's a religion.
No. 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 No, 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 no.
It is. Christians, get on board. This is a religion. Now, I will say this. I think when people say I have a relationship and not a religion, is they mean that I'm not just going through cold, mechanical rituals.
Hokey religion.
This is a living God who's at work in my life.
The crazy thing is, it's true. All of it.
A good way to interpret this from them, I would encourage them to just go ahead and admit they have a religion. Yes, admit that. It is a religion. You do follow its rules. It does have precepts. It does have rituals. It's a religion. What they're wanting to convey is that there is this personal aspect, and overall they want.
I think they also want to do something very problematic, and quickly, I think that is they want to get away from the Bible, right? These are a lot of the feel-good, softy Christians who really don't want to be held to account by other Christians for what would be considered biblically sound theology and then right living according to that biblically sound theology. They want to be the hand wavy Christians who get the hope, meaning, and purpose and the eternal life and all of the goodies, but get to sidestep the actual demands of the cult. Do you have anything for that, Mama Blackfine?
No.
I want to encourage that this is the true religion. Now, I know that sounds insulting to some people too, but I believe there are truths, as I've said before, in other religions. So is Islam false? Well, Islam is mostly false, or false in the most important ways. If you're wrong about Jesus, it doesn't matter much in terms of your salvation, really what you're right about. And so yeah, I mean, I think that's a religion that is mostly false, but in the general sense that most people talk about these things, I don't have a problem saying, yes, I think Islam is false.
It's false. No way. Not this time. Not this time. No.
I believe that Christianity is true. Christianity
on what grounds?
is
But
the
why?
truth about the nature of reality.
Wow.
Is it possible this story is true?
Again, taking nature
Yes, it is.
and just calling it Jesus.
It's fact. Yes. Yes.
Now that doesn't sound much better because I
Did
think
he bother? How ironic that he went to sci-fi clips. Braxton, bro, you just need to work the mirror. That's all you need to do. Work the mirror.
There's sci-fi, and for carrying most hi-fi.
Most hi-fi. That's exactly. Oh man, I'm getting a lot of great ideas.
I think what people are trying to get at when they say, no, you're in a religion.
Yeah, pay-per-pew. In the new genre of most hi-fi,
just like all the other religions,
starring
there's nothing
Richard
special
Madsen.
about your religion. Well, there is something special about our religion. I believe this is the religion that happens to most accurately reflect the nature of reality, King Jesus and the God who created everything. So I still think that I'm in the right religion, but it is a religion. I'll give him that.
All right. Yeah, we might be able to hold hands and wrap this thing up harmoniously on that one, because I'm with them. It is absolutely a religion, but I hear that narrative a lot. It's a very severe duck, and it only comes from very religious people. It's normally from very religious people, I should say. But yeah, it's a big problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad he could admit it, and I think, I don't know, he has it hard. All the people with faith that believe in a God, they do, because if we if we simply ask the question, prove it to me in this moment. I don't want to read anything, miraculously have your God make a tree grow out of the ground right there in front of us, or heal all the sick in the world by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, or just the kids, right? At least just heal the kids so they're not suffering. Go to work on my one black friend's mom's leg and get her all healed up and sealed up. Just do that today. There's all these simple things we can ask that any God that can create the universe, except for planet Earth, in a day ought to be able to do. And if he says he will heal people and he doesn't, that's cruel. Just like I had an argument about someone with God in the Bible's treatment of Job and how he allowed Satan to torment Job and his family. And I said, think about God's character, lack of character. For doing that.
Absolutely.
Do you need to prove anything to Satan? No. So why allow this to go on? And the guy replied shockingly after I mentioned Job's kids were killed. He says, well, but God gave him more kids. And I was like, what if it was your kids?
Wow.
I think the ability for them to view their God objectively becomes impossible after a while, because God has promised to fix something either in them or in the world that they care about that is broken.
Right.
And I can't come along with my scissors and start saying, well, let's just look at this part right here. I'm gonna cut out this part. I want you to look at this by itself, and have them try to justify to me why that's good behavior, why that's just. Is God wrong? Why is God not wrong for doing A, B, C, and D? But I don't know, dude. They have it hard. They have it hard. And maybe I'll do that thing when in the future when people go, I'd like to share my faith with you. And I can just ask them, how do I know you're not lying to yourself? In this moment, right now.
Right.
Don't make me read a whole book.
Right.
Odds are, we know statistically, we covered that in our broadcast. Odds are they have not read their own book. Not only have they not read the whole thing, they don't read it on a regular basis. And they're trying to sell it to me.
Right. Absolutely. What are your closing thoughts on Braxton overall, or the way he deals with atheists, or because that was kind of the theme today?
I certainly like his hat. Again, I think I just sort of said it. Like, he has it tough. And I don't for 1 minute think that guy believes in God still. He just, like, how do I do something else with my life? And he may not know what to do because that's probably paying the bills. I didn't happen to look at his. Can you show on this screen like how many views this video has?
1.2 thousand, and he has 17,000 subs. So yeah, he's got merch and everything. He's making money.
Well, but 1.17 subs and only 1.2 thousand views. He's doing something else. This is not feeding him.
Yes.
1.2 thousand views. If that's a consistent number,
I think he's probably, well, you got to remember, he's probably branched out over all the other platforms. I doubt if, he's probably doing a bunch of that.
I'll take that back. If he's got that Patreon, and let's just do, all right, let me get my calculator out. I'll follow my 10% model. So, doggone it. So he's got 17,000 subscribers.
No,
let's just say 10 of those are active.
Oh, he's the 10. Yeah.
10,000. Okay. And let's just say the average donation, let's just say 1,000 out of that 10,000 actually donate. So 1,000, and I'm going to just say they donate $5 a month on average. Some will donate more. Nobody donates less than $1 probably. Let me raise it. Let's just say it's $3 on average. $8 on average. That's $8,000 a month.
Yeah, he can make money. He can do it.
And if you don't have an expensive lifestyle, that might be enough for you.
Yeah.
Braxton Hunter can afford a bicycle.
But he's probably got a bunch of stuff going on. I'm sure he's making money on merch and other platforms and Patreon and
that Patreon I think is where it's at for
appearances.
him. He's probably making $8,000 a month off that Patreon. Gosh, if I did that, I'd have a Porsche.
Exactly.
Hint, everybody.
All right. Well, look, I appreciate everybody. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I don't really know what I think about his relationship to other faiths. I think I don't think he's a good faith actor. So that means I guess I don't think he's an honest interlocutor for sure. If he is going to church, I think it's maybe to keep up appearances. He doesn't seem to be in step with congregational Christianity. So not sure about that. He definitely threw a lot of subtle jabs at stuff I didn't like. But yeah, I think he's really problematic. I think he's like a lot of people who just kind of represent the growing apologetics industry, and he's someone who's found a niche for himself, and I think he's like aspiring, and he's looking at what bigger channels and other platforms are doing, and trying to get in line with it. I do think he also makes decent content in terms of production values and all that. Like one thing I noticed is like if he makes a live video, he focuses on his content. He won't let the people flaming him in the chat get him too distracted and stuff like that. So, he is good at this, but yeah, he's really, I think he's kind of a jerk. I saw Oz making fun of him. He was talking about dating or something, and Oz was reviewing that, and I was like, I want to make fun of Braxton Hunter because I don't like Braxton Hunter. So yeah, I think he's a bad actor, and I would love to hear him just debate.
Can we just get a sound clip of he's a racist?
YouTube shorts. I think Braxton Hunter is blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I should put that out there because that'll bring the trolls in. People going, you have no reason to say that. I'm like, you're right. I have no reason to say that. It's just it's a hunch.
I think I had a really great friendship, and the guy called me a racist, and I basically said, you'll never speak to me again. Like that's the worst thing you could possibly say.
I'm taking the gloves off.
True.
Really?
So yes.
I think that's funny. I don't think I'd be bothered that much. I think it's one of those. I get that, but I think if you I could understand that. For me, it's one of those things. If I don't think it's true, it's okay. But
he didn't say this in the conversation to like we're just joking while we're hanging out. He said this publicly on Facebook.
I see. I see. Yeah.
No. Yeah. And quite honestly, I don't think the setting would have mattered.
Right.
Right. I'm a person who says black people saying the N-word is racist. And I don't have too many people that I'm in conversation with that even agree with me on that. But that's how I feel.
Sure.
That's how
I see it. Sure. Yeah.
I don't need people to agree with me.
Yes.
But Braxton, I think in his podcast, like the clips you played, he can sort of admit that to some degree the weaknesses of his arguments for the validity of the biblical narratives. But at the same time, I think when I see him in interviews, I don't think I see him permit that much, not interviews, like a debate with Dillahunty. I don't think he gives it that much grace. I'll have to watch it again and see if I need to.
I would actually like to see him in a debate with some of these people. So but maybe that's the thing I'll be doing is finding these interactions because those are fun. Yeah, but yeah, go ahead, Sean.
If y'all aren't going to clip the racist Braxton Hunter, at least get somebody to draw Black Hunchback Jesus for me. Can we get the Hunchback Jesus emoji?
now darkened. I'll go through my photos from the Museum of Russian Icons, and I'll see if there's one in there with a little Hunchback Jesus.
We got to get B in here, and we've had a couple people try to start clips channels. We've got to get somebody on that. Somebody who doesn't mind, marking out stuff in the show and going back and clipping it out. Yeah. But look, let's get up out of here. Please click the link that is pinned in the chat. It's also down in the description. Come link up with us and gather. We'll be hanging out all day around the clock like we normally do. We've been watching The Deuce on HBO. We're actually just about to start season 3. And we'll have a WrestleMania party tonight and watch movies and play games. And it's also the virtual office that we use throughout the week. We're literally always in gather. We think that it's really important to, have a place where we can be in community when we're not live. So we're always in gather, even when we're not live on YouTube. Please come check us out and join the gang. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Appreciate everybody. Be good to yourselves
and each other.
All right, we're out of here. Poof.
All right.
I'm pressing the wrong button.